Hey, welcome to another update on Archmage Rises, and with me, as always, is Don Bloomfield. Oh, wait a minute, you're new. So, this is Don, and how do I know you, Don?
Yeah, forums and sort of Facebook groups. It's been maybe 5-6 years.
Yeah, you've been a longtime fan of Archmage Rises. I can't remember exactly when you... I know it was like in the first year or something like that. When did you start following the game?
Yeah. Look, I think you announced it in one of those forums, and I sort of jumped in and had a look and thought it was a pretty cool project.
So what was it exactly that attracted you to Archmage?
So the sort of freedom that you were going for, the being able to build your own story, and I've always had an interest in that sort of AI-generated world and an environment with living, breathing creatures running around. So yeah, I sort of jumped in as a fan to see where you got to with that.
So, as a fan, are you like completely disappointed the game's not done yet?
Okay, no, your video updates keep us interested and keep us in the loop. I think that's been really good.
Whew! Okay, so I could take another 5 years. That's good to know. And you are a special fan in the sense that you are one of the only people to have actually worked on Archmage. You contributed some code to the game. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Very early on, I think you were looking at the map setup and we were looking at a few different areas of the game at once. So you were able to break off the map and give me a few weeks to play with sort of rivers and roads and how things would join up and make the map look decent. I think I actually worked on the sort of generation of the islands a little bit, but I think it's changed a bit since then as well.
Well, everybody's code has changed over the years, but yeah. So you basically created the terrain generation, and it's been, I don't know, 4 years or something like that, and it's still pretty close to what it is you originally wrote. It hasn't changed that much. So good for you. You made a good component that was easy to build and plug in, and we've used it ever since. And we have to do some tweaks to it soon, but for all intents and purposes, it's been running great. So anyway, I think that's pretty cool that you were able to help out that way, and I didn't have to worry about the train generation. So for those that may not know, way back in the beginning, I actually had a fixed map, and then I was going to just put dots of cities on the map. So the cities themselves would be different, but the terrain would always be the same, and then they would gather information about the terrain around the town, and then the towns would be kind of different that way, except the terrain was always the same, so I guess the towns would always kind of be similar. And then finally came to this point where it's like, man, maybe I should just do terrain generation. I didn't want to do it. It was going to slow me down. Had to figure it all out, whatever. And then that's when Don came in and did that, and that was cool. And you got a T-shirt for it.
Yeah, that's right.
So he has one of the few Archmage Rises developer staff T-shirts that hopefully will be worth.
Proudly.
Yeah. So when the game finally launches, you can wear it proudly. Right now, don't wear it. This week we're going to talk about some of the work that I've done on the AI of the NPCs, which actually ended up being an important part of the economy. So big picture, I'm working on the economy and making that good based on everything I talked about last update. And as part of that, I had to go and start reworking some of the AI and how we're going to do that. So we're going to dive in and talk about that. And Don here is a programmer, and you work in VR now, and I think this would be a good topic for you, Don. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm always excited about AI.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so I was busy working on the economy, and I started working on the traders, and this is what I would need a trader to do, mostly in terms of feel within the game. This is what I want him to do. So he travels to the purchase town, then he goes to the merchant and he trades with the merchant, and that way he secures his inventory that he showed up for. So we'll just use a simple example that he's from a town that needs metal, so he's at the merchant, he buys the metal, now he has it in his cargo, and then what I want is for him to go available, and then I want him to sleep, and then I want him to travel back home, then I want him to trade with the merchant at his hometown and give him the metal, and then I want him to go to and be available. And does that make sense?
Yeah, so the first available, is that he's available for more pickups?
No, actually, I just about to explain it. So this available is a term that we use in the game to say the AI for the NPC is available. He's able to do stuff. And so what I want is for him basically to like go for a drink in the inn. That's kind of what I want him to do, right? So
Yep.
he's traveled however many days in order to get to the inn. He does his trading right away to secure the inventory. Basically, I don't want him to show up after all this travel and then somebody beats him to the inventory. So he does his trade, and then I don't want him to return home right away, because if he does return home immediately, you would basically never run into the traders. Well, you could run into them on the road, but I think it's way cooler to go into the inn of a town and then see who's there. And every single person that's there is there for a reason. And that's what I think is cool about like a data-driven role-playing simulator. So that available is him becoming available. Like, I don't know what time he's going to get there, right? Because I don't know if he's going to get there in the morning, if he's going to get there at night or whatever. So I want him to appear in that inn. And so when that available comes up. So that's the kicker. That's the thing that created the problem for me. Does that make sense?
Yep. No, that makes sense.
Okay. So the current model of how we've been working with them, and I'm going to talk about the AI and how we designed it, and I'm not going to pretend that this is like genius stuff or even really particularly proprietary. It's just, hey, here's the problems, and here's how I've come up with a solution for solving them, and I think it'll be interest to everybody. I'm not going to show any gameplay this week, so just to make that clear to people, we're going to be talking about the internals of how this works. So the current model is I actually have two states that we track for a character. They have a character state and they have a job state. So the character state tracks things like are they working, are they sleeping, are they traveling, are they dead, things that I consider to be at a character level. The job state are states. We needed a state machine within the job so that we could track, are they traveling for their job? Like that's different. That's like going from your house to your workplace is much different than traveling to another town. Then they have to do things like, did I source my supplies that I need? Do I have the metal that I need to turn into tools? Then they produce, so they work against their task, and then they sell whatever it is that they produce. So maybe they didn't produce anything, in which case they don't sell, but if they did, then that happens. And so you have this larger character state, which is tracking the working, sleeping, moving around, eating, and that stuff. And then you have the internal state of the job. And this actually created a problem. It's created a number of problems already because they're forever checking both states in order to see what are they actually doing. And are they available? Are they still working or not? Like if it says he's working, that doesn't necessarily mean he's at work. It just means he's going through the stages of the job state, and there's no way to interrupt the job state, like to leave the job state, go do something at the character level, like sleep, and then go back into part of the job state without doing like a lot of coding and stuff. So it was getting kind of messy. Yeah, okay. So I came up with a new system, which I call a task-based system. And so what is a task? A task has three components to it. The first is a command. So some of the possible commands are travel to a location, travel to a specific building. That would be like within a location. Add someone to the party, remove someone from the party, interact with the building. So whatever a building's interaction verbs are, execute one of those verbs. Shop, drink, eat, whatever it happens to be. Or it could be a job task. So those are the commands. Now the commands, those are like verbs. Now I need a noun that those things happen upon. And so that would be like people or buildings, or maybe even something else, but it's mainly people or buildings. And then the last one is important for these weird cases, the not before date. So that is, I want you to do this thing, but I don't want you to do it before this particular date. So if we go back to the merchant trader and he arrives and then he goes to be available, I want him to go home, but I don't want him to go home today. I want him to go home tomorrow. So the not before allows me to control that and say, hey, I want that for tomorrow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Do you have a not before and other commands done? Like, are they in specific order, or are
yes.
they a whole bunch of commands?
Man, you always ask the right question right before I answer it. So I'll show you that in a second. So this is the new NPC AI Loop. So the idea is that they wake up from sleep or whatever it is that they were doing before or stuff, but we'll start from the beginning of the day. Okay, I just woke up from sleep. What am I going to do today? First thing it checks is today a work day? And if today's a work day, then it's going to add the work tasks to my queue, my task queue. And then I get set to being available, right? Because I just woke up from sleep, so I'm available right away in the morning. We don't simulate the showers, going to the bathroom, and having coffee because that's just ludicrous. So we jump right to, okay, I'm available, ready to work. So the first thing he does is he looks to see, hey, do I have any tasks? And if the answer is yes, then he will execute the tasks in the queue in sequence. So when he goes to execute that task, the first question they ask is, hey, how long will this task take? And will it take longer than my bedtime? And this is for a situation where the trader gets at the town and then he trades and does everything, and it's like, oh, it's time to go home. But go home is going to take me way longer than the time to my bedtime. So I'm going to sleep here tonight. Basically, that's how we think when we're like driving somewhere that's far away. It's like, oh, I can't make it there tonight. I'm going to fall asleep. So I'm going to sleep first. And then I'm going to go and do that long taking task. So if he doesn't have any tasks to do, so he's emptied his queue, then he's going to fulfill his strongest desire or execute an interest. And so a desire could be to eat or for entertainment. An interest could be horseback riding or going for a walk, to a nature hike or something like that. So this is the core loop that all of the NPCs are going to go through. Does that make sense?
No, that looks really clear. That's good.
Okay. Well, it has to be clear so I'm able to program it because I'm not that great at it. So it has to be really easy. Okay, so taking the idea of these tasks and the queues, here's some examples of how those play out. So just any NPC, he's done his workday and switches to that available state. And so then it's going to say, oh, okay, well, I'm available. Let's fulfill a desire. And we chooses an entertainment desire. So there's multiple ways of fulfilling an entertainment desire, but right now it's just the inn. So the first thing is the command visit. And then the object is the inn, or the target is the inn, and there's no date thing associated with it. And then once I visited the inn, then the next thing I want you to do is interact with that inn. So the first part is what makes him go into the inn, and if you were sitting in the inn and the hour changed, you would see him enter into the room. And then the second task, if you're able to observe it, you currently can't see this in the game, but you would see him actually place his order, and you would know, hey, that guy over there ordered this particular whiskey. Another example of just like a very basic workday. So the herbalist will have a go-to command, which is different from visit. Visit is for buildings. Go-to is for actual hexes, like outside that they have to travel around on. So go to the forest hex, pick up what's there, which is berries. The herbalist can get a variety of things. So basically pick up things that you're able to pick up, and then go home. And then once he goes home, then they'll transfer the stuff into inventory. And then the last one is actually solving the problem that I originally needed to solve, which is the trader. So now I can queue up the commands when the trader goes to, basically when the merchant says, hey, I need some metal. Trader, go get me some metal. Then I can immediately put these 6 commands into his queue, go to the town, visit the merchant, interact with the merchant, so that'll take care of the trading, and then I hit this available thing. Okay, you're now available. And when I do that, all those other things would have left the queue, but he still has these 2 things left on the queue. But because I've added the plus 8 hours to it, that means don't do it today. Do this thing tomorrow. So basically he's got an empty queue. So he's going to execute that fulfill a desire and for entertainment, and then that's when we add in the two tasks: visit the inn and interact the inn. And then when those are done, and he sleeps, then he'll wake up in the morning. The 8 hours will have passed on the bottom go-to command, and then he'll start executing those go-to commands. And that is how that works.
That sounds great.
That sounds good?
Yeah.
Okay, so these are the benefits that I have seen in this system. First is that it's reusable. There's no need to separate the state between the work and the rest of his life. So I can get rid of those two different states that I had to be tracking. All AI decisions can be executed, traced, and programmed in the same way, and that's super valuable for debugging. And also it's just valuable to making changes to the system or improving performance. Just goes throughout the whole system. AI tasks can be assigned, interrupted, or removed as needed. So going back to here, if somebody has a queue and they have the herbalist to like go here, pick up the berries, but then something happens in the world, I can go and actually take out the pick up the berries or something like that, immediately jump to go home. I had no way to do that in the old system. So the ability to interrupt things is like really important. And finally, it paves the way for really complex NPCs like monster leaders, apprentices, bards, and adventurers. There's NPC adventurers in the world. Okay, so what do you think of that, Don?
Look, that sounds like a really good system. I guess my first question is that list of 6 items, 6 tasks like the trader has that you drop in, is that a set 6 that the trader will always get when there's a trigger for it? Or is that slightly generated by the AI as well?
So it is generated because the trader always needs to do something, right? Like he always has to travel somewhere, he has to buy something. Like those things are driven based on the command that he got from his merchant. The thing that is more variable or like AI driven is like when he hits that available thing. So that's why I designed this system, was for the reason that you're asking, is because with the current system, I would have to program him every single time. He's always going to go for a drink and always go to sleep in the inn and always whatever. But with this new system, as I add more entertainment buildings, he doesn't have to go to the inn. He could go to the inn, he could go to the theater, he could go to the gladiator pits, he could go to chicken fighting, like whatever, right? And so that's one thing that I like about this, was it creates those kind of open areas where the AI can just make its decision.
Yep. Is there flexibility though if he wants to pick up 2 resources on the one trip?
Yes. There's some cheating going on there. He basically just buys everything that his source town needs in one go.
Yep.
Just to keep the economy going. And so like to model the delay of information, like, oh well, when I left we needed A, B, and C, but by the time he gets there, we only need A and B. I'm like, forget all that. I'm just gonna have him go there. When he gets there, he has like psychic knowledge of what exactly needs to be purchased at this exact moment in time, and then he just buys that stuff and then brings it back.
Cool. No, that's great. Yeah, I think those entertainment options and desires filling gaps should add a fair bit of life. That's a much better system than the previous. That's great.
Yeah, so the whole goal is to make NPCs that really feel real and alive, and you should be able to see, hey, this guy always goes to the inn. Well, if you go and look back, maybe he has a drinking problem, or maybe that just because of his interest, that's what he likes. Or this guy always goes to the theater. I can always count on finding him in the theater, and that tells you a little something about their personality, and I think that's cool.
Or the graveyard,
Yeah.
Everyone has their proclivity. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't have anything else to talk about this week. What do you think? Do you think we should have Nick back next week, or should we just find somebody else?
I don't know. You seem to be doing fairly well on finding the guys with glasses and beards. So
there seems to be quite a few people with glasses and beards. So
I don't know that kind of thing.
Well, if you have glasses and beard and you would like to be on the video, let me know in the comments. And if we do, maybe we'll get you on. Otherwise, we'll go back to Nick. Nick did want to be on the video, but then when I told him that you had volunteered when Nick couldn't make it on the previous video, he couldn't make it, and I was like, hey, anybody want to be on the video? And you and Michael had both said, hey, I'll be on it. And then I said to Nick, hey, you could be on the video this week, but actually Don had said he'd like to be on, so hey, let's have Don on. Nick's like, hey, that's cool. Nick likes watching the videos, and so he's, it's like a big surprise for him. Now he gets to watch the video and see like what happened, right? Normally he's always on them and he never watches them.
Yep. No, that's perfect. I look forward to seeing Nick back. That'd be
Okay.
great.
Okay, well, that's all I got for this week. So thanks for watching, everybody. If you have any comments on the AI, what you think of these NPCs, let me know. Otherwise, see you later.